water settlements. Body cams are another source, but good luck getting access. They will charge you a lot of money because they say it takes an hour to view every minute of video. Now, with regard to body cams, officers forget to activate the recording, even though it's mandatory. And then the review protocols in place for civilian and citizen committees are woefully deficient to achieve any real justice. We have seen what happens when complaints are summarily deemed unfounded and then not reported. Almost done. Real professions, and I accept law enforcement, real professions have independent review of misconduct complaints. Doctors are subject to the state medical board, not just their hospitals and private practices. Lawyers are subject to the ARDC, subject to sanctions, not just by their law firms or their agencies. The rulings of these bodies are published. Police are subject to internal investigation. We checked it out and we think we did fine. And their findings are never reported. We don't know why they did or did not do whatever. Reform will require attention to each and every relevant issue, including contracts, and that's my last comment here. Okay, I should say this next comment is my last one. Start with true accountability. Start with each part of the process of hiring, firing, retiring. Discipline and de-escalation, that's pretty simple. We need tolerance and transparency instead of riot shields preventing the public from accessing the public lobby of the police department. In addition to these books, which I recommend, I've also included a letter that I sent last January to the state's attorney regarding the sheriff who was refusing, publicly announcing that he would not enforce the registration of automatic weapons.
Mr. Davis.
Thank you. I'm done.
Douglas Holt.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Douglas Holt. I live in Springfield for more than 40 years. Been on boards for about 30 years. I'm an actor, local actor, and I am a member or representative for the United States Institute of Diplomacy and Human Rights based in Washington, D.C. And I work on all kinds of legal cases on a personal relation as well as helping others. And the biggest thing that I see that we have a problem with more than anything is favoritism. And that's one of the concerns that I had put up on the board over here. And what I mean by favoritism is that we have divided ourselves between us and them. And in doing so, we have somehow lost touch with the fact and the reality that we're all one. And that in order to get through this difficult thing that we call life, we have to work together. One of the biggest things outside of that I've seen is there are a lot of loopholes in our so-called policies, which govern our laws and regulations. And until we close those gaps that are in our policies, which govern our laws and regulations, and then we're going to have additional problems down the road. Because anybody can just rewrite a policy, rewrite a law, and change things instantly from the time that we just created a law or have other policies just sitting there waiting for somebody else to get in office to rewrite the policy against the law we just created. These are the difficulties that we're going through today. And I narrowed it down pretty much, as I said, to having to do with favoritism. For example, if I'm being harassed and I know who's doing it, and it's an officer, and I call, who am I going to call to file charges against the officer? And in doing so, I need a police report in order to state to the state's attorney's office to file against an officer. But if you deny the police report, or if the police report is false, then we have a problem. Favoritism. So when we come and know and understand that, believe it or not, everything that governs where we are today has to do with what is in writing, more so than anything for what it is that we say or do. It's got to be on paper. It's got to be stamped with a legal guardian in order for it to move from one step to the next in our legal process and our legal system. And if it doesn't get to the point where it's supposed to be, entrusting the people who are passing on the paper to the right people who are supposed to get it in order for us to get justice. I came up with many solutions as far as what needs to be done. But more so than anything is simply closing the gap of what it is for the loopholes that are there that prevent us from getting the justice that we need. I mean, favoritism is dividing our city, it's dividing our state, it's dividing our country. And until we understand that and realize that, I mean, you can call it by many names. You want to call it racism, but when we consider talking about racism, we're only usually talking about black and white. We don't talk about the racism within the black community against other black people. There are people who that we consider to be outsiders who come here to try to have a life, but if they don't fit into one of the groups within the community, they're not accepted. And when you have people who have been here for generations, who have relatives and groups and more notoriety, that's held up against people who have came here from outside, who want the same thing that everybody else does here, and that is to live a life. I thank you for your time. I got notes that I didn't even look at to read, but I got my point across for what it is I want. And I'm saying that because I'm not a speaker, I'm a writer. Y'all got me out from behind my desk, out of my shell, sitting up here speaking before a group of people. Okay? I'll see y'all later.
Russ Burnett.
Good evening. The Sonia Massey Commission is a commission that will be ongoing and ever present, not only in Springfield, Illinois, but nationwide. Why do I say nationwide? Because there's been too much, pardon my French, damn politics going on for too long, and nobody's speaking up about the problem or the issues. My name is Russ Barnett. I live here in Springfield, Illinois for over 45 years. I have seen all styles of racial profiling, from the black community, the white community, transgender, you name it. It is all over in this particular city and county, and even in the state. I also, a while back, am one of the current applicants to try to be on the commission. The commission will not be, and I repeat, will not be a paid position. The commission will be for the betterment of the Sonia Massey family, as well as the others in the past, like Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, just to name a few. Me personally, I have decided that I will be starting soon, and very soon, a civilian police accountability board in the city of Springfield. It is high time that that needs to be done. Our state senator, who is also in the audience tonight, Doris Turner, is well aware that things like this and public forums like this need to be seriously addressed. It has been gone too far long. My sister-in-law, who is also African American, who lives in Chicago, Illinois, big major city of high crime, violence, you name it, is also on a commission in Chicago for police accountability. It's called COPA, Citizens Prevention and Accountability for Police Officers. I went to see that particular commission 3 years ago. That particular commission needs to be right smack dab here in Springfield as we speak. It should be a 24/7. My duty as a citizen of Springfield is going to see that there will be, and I mean there will be, police accountability in this city. I've had people come up to me just recently, with the election getting ready to come up, say, hey, why don't you be a precinct committeeman? Why don't you be an alderman? Why don't you be this? Why don't you be that? The reason why a lot of people do not get into politics is because they're afraid of the failure and the criticism if something like what unfortunate circumstances happened to Sonia occurs. It is high time that we get off our butts and start moving forward and having a voice. Me personally, like I said, I am going to start moving, and I will give you my phone number. I will give you my address. We are going to start a citizens advisory council, not only like the commission that is underway right now, that will be under somewhat the city and county jurisdiction, but this one here that I'm going to start is community-wide, statewide. Everybody can show up and have a voice. I thank you for your time.
Michelle Cruz-Hine.
Hi. I'm definitely not a public speaker. I like writing just like you, Douglas, so I'm going to do my best. I'm Michelle Cruz-Hine. I'm a teacher with District 186. I believe that a lot of the problem is within white people, and white people are afraid to not even talk about racism or the racist thoughts that they're in their head. Every white person has racist thoughts. When these thoughts and biases are not talked about in safe spaces, it perpetuates a system that has been put in place through colonization. I will speak about my vulnerabilities throughout my life and in hopes that others will do the same to bring down these systems of oppression that have terrorized communities of color for centuries. I grew up in a single-family household. My sister was diagnosed with multiple conditions: bipolar, personality disorder, ODD, a combination of the many. She would break things, hit us, tried to run me over with a car, held knives to my throat, would kick my mother with Doc Marten boots. She was 13 and she was the bully in the house. I couldn't talk about it because nobody understands a 13-year-old who beats their mother. I would call the police to come and help. I was not afraid. I was taught that they are there to protect you. I did not fear for any one of our lives, my sister, nor my mother's, nor mine. Once the police arrived, I felt safe. They didn't arrest my mother. They de-escalated the situation, and the problem went away for a few days. I remember watching the Rodney King riots, believing the narrative that he provoked them, even though I saw on the screen with my own eyes a black man being beat on the ground with nightsticks by the police. I remember it. Years later, during my college years, and slowly become to awaken to what racism is, the definition of racism, how it's affecting people, and how it's affecting the LGBT community, just everything. When I met my wife, I witnessed the effects of racism on a person of color firsthand. She would not leave the house without her wallet. If I even suggested it, she would go into an anxiety attack. The grocery store cashier held up a $10 bill just to check if it was counterfeit. Who frickin' does that? No one. Being pulled over by the police while she was driving me to my classroom, the officer did not see me. He was rude, abrasive, treating her less than. I had never witnessed that, never. I sat up and said, "Excuse me, sir, this is my car. I'm a teacher. She's driving me there because I'm sick and I need to leave my lesson plan." I was careful not to let him know that we were married and well aware of my privilege. My idealization of the police and the entire justice system disappeared, especially with the murder of Trayvon Martin and the man that went free. I don't want to say his name. Michael Brown, Tamir Rice, the autistic man Elijah McClain by the police, so forth, so forth, so forth. It's enraging. As a mother, I can't get Sonia Massey's father out of my head. He calls her his baby, and I look at my baby and I think the same. He will always be my baby. I can't stand it. Systemic racism and police answering mental health calls is a problem in our nation. Mental health is a crisis, and honestly, not just in mental health, but physical health as well, especially for the POC LGBTQIA+ community. I want to see conversations involving more people about the effects of systemic racism on our mental health care system and policing, how the two go hand in hand. I want to see workshops happen in the healthcare system, educational system, and within the police explain exactly what racism is to white people. So many white people I know think that they are victims of racism just because a person of color doesn't like them because of the color of their skin. That's crazy. Systemic racism needs to be brought into the light to end policies that reinforce brutality and white supremacy. The more people are aware of how systemic racism and white supremacy are affecting people of color and the LGBTQIA+ community, the more efficient the work will be in ridding the system of colonized oppression. This commission needs to examine how systemic racism and biases affect people of color and the LGBTQIA+ community within the medical and police industry to bring forth ideas, advise, assist, and create policies that address racial, gender, and LGBT biases. This understanding must envelope our educational system since many children of color are misdiagnosed with mental disorders from an early age, from put in trauma-based solutions that need to become the norm and respond in such a way as to address the problem at its root. Thank you.
Don Hanrahan.
Good evening. I'm a local attorney, mostly retired. I've been an attorney for well over 40 years. I've been an activist most of my life, starting as a campus activist, trying to get the University of Illinois to divest in its stock in the apartheid regime in South Africa. And I've been a legal aid lawyer, I've been in private practice, I've done a lot of things. And I like to work behind the scenes, but I didn't intend to come here and speak tonight, but things happen. And so I'd like to address a few things. A number of us were told that the September 10th county board meeting was to be just procedural. The members would gavel in, gavel out, then adjourn according to the chair, and all the September business, including the Massey Commission, And the sheriff announcement would occur at a special meeting on the 18th at the BOS Center. And attend the 18th meeting, not the 10th. I didn't go to the 10th. So I was dismayed to learn last night, and maybe dismayed is not the word my wife would use when she heard the language as I was reading. I was dismayed to learn that the board apparently did meet on the 10th and passed resolutions to hire a fellow Republican's company for $58,000 for logistics and research for the Massey Commission, even before the commission exists in its Resolution 18 for that meeting, and another company, Vector Communications, Resolution 17, to be the Community Engagement and Media Relations Company for $21,000. I'm not gonna, I don't have an opinion about their competence or anything like that, but I say this, it reeks of patronizing behavior. It's a bad look. Not openness, but opaqueness, and maybe even patronage as well as patronizing. Who decided that? The commission is not even in existence. Now, my objections are, I intended to wait till the commission got established and then suggest a Springfield native, an internationally known and lauded expert in police and community relations, a legal scholar and author who's built her own foundation of research at Yale's noted Justice Collaboratory Project. And I was going to suggest that she be the expert, not somebody connected with politics. So I will talk to her, and I will still try and hope that she loves her city enough to come back here. She came in 2018 and gave a wonderful presentation to the ACLU, of which I'm a member, and we hope maybe she will help this commission. But there has to be total independence from the county board, or this commission is going nowhere. There should be a complete, open, independent investigation, and the goal should not be engaging with the community. The goal should be that the community engagement results in the termination of systemic racialized policing in Sangamon County. Thank you and good night.
Ken Pacha. I apologize, Paisha.
You got it though. Like, you're the only one who ever got it, so thank you. I appreciate that. For real, like county boards, city boards, I've had to be like, yes, Paisha, so thank you. So not to cut into my time further, but I guess my concern with the board is so we've already spent a considerable amount of money on consulting that, quite honestly, those are out-of-town firms. We have black consulting firms here in town that could have probably even joined it for free. I'd be willing to bet they probably would have volunteered their services for that instead of Van Meter's own consulting firm that he usually farms his work out to. So that was an easy give. Additionally, and I'm not going to speak for the Masseys on this, but this is the Massey Commission, and we haven't announced those 12, but I'm sincerely hoping there is a Massey on that commission. Otherwise, I will be dearly disappointed in those efforts. And additionally, just in terms of who's being appointed, I mean, we had 204 applicants. They've already all been reviewed. That's astounding. I mean, didn't we just close that about a week and a half ago? I mean, I guess for me, the really big concern is what are we going to do with this commission? I mean, we shut down Gina Latham's resolution for an independent investigative committee regarding the hiring outcomes that led to the death and murder, I should say, of Sonia Massey. I didn't see that listed anywhere in there. We've got a really broad list of goals, and I mean, this isn't to toot my own professional horn, but I got a master's degree in a lot of that stuff, and that was years of study. So if we're gonna focus on all those topics, we're not actually talking about real immediate structural change happening anytime soon. And that's a problem for me. Because personally, that's what I thought we were doing. And that's not to critique, again, the committee before any work's been done, but it does seem like there's been some large decisions already made about who's going to be doing the consulting, who's going to be doing our PR, our marketing, our messaging. And I guess for me, we haven't even consulted with those 12 members, at least in my awareness. So that's very problematic. I mean, if we're talking about community views, I guess I'd ask the question, how many people on that committee have ever been attacked by the police? How many of them ever had a pair of cuffs put on their hands? I mean, I'm not asking I get put on there, although I did apply, so if my name's in there, that'd be great. But my point is, though, is if you don't actually know what it's like to suffer from systemic abuse, systemic racism, and I'm not claiming that myself, but the idea is, though, is if you're going to have these voices on there, it can't be people that just sat in a classroom and learned about it. It's got to be people that have seen and looked in these officers' faces when they look at us like we're nobody. Because I know if you've ever stood in front of one of them, you've seen that look. Like we're nothing, like we don't deserve their respect, like we don't deserve fair treatment, like we get these outcomes because they have the right to hand them to us. And I'm gonna calm down because I get really upset, and if you saw me at the last city council meeting, I will get going. But my problem is I really, really hope that the voices on this commission have those kind of viewpoints, because I don't really want to hear recommendations that our county board and our city council will outright ignore, as they have for decades. Because as I referenced at the last city council meeting, we've had these sort of things before. We've had this advice, we've had this guidance, we've had these recommendations. At the last board meeting, we had somebody come up with, I believe it wasn't McJunkins, I apologize, but it was somebody who came up with the thing they agreed to with Cook County and assorted police chiefs. Those promises. From who? People that have broken endless, countless, thousands of promises to us to not kill us, murder us, beat us, imprison us? What, am I supposed to take them seriously at this point? Why? How many times you gotta punch me in the face before I start ducking? Like, come on now. I'm not critiquing this yet because I don't know who those 12 members are, but I sincerely hope that the board, the people that have already selected this, because the part I'm concerned by especially is that the two people that are left on this co-chair, where did Mina Harris go? How is her job done already? We haven't done anything. Did we just hire her for something that happened off screen? I mean, I'm just serious. Where is a black woman right now on this board? Can someone assure me that that's part of the 12? Does anyone know the names? Does anyone know who's been selected? Because for me, that's very troubling from the start. Because I asked where she was to people before we started, and it wasn't that she didn't want to be here. It's that she's been told she doesn't need to be here. And that is concerning to me, because we don't know why that is. So I guess just for me, we're starting off on a bad foot in general, in my impression, because my original assumption is that we would be focused on figuring out why this even happened here. Because I think all of us at this point are long past agreeing on systemic and institutional racism, police abuse, police violence, malfeasance in how they hire, the nepotism and favoritism that they practice, and the excuses they trot out every single time. Like, we're stupid. We just had a cop hit someone with a DUI, and they're still reviewing the body cam footage. It took days to review Massey's footage. We know what happened. Why do they keep acting like it's a mystery and we need to just keep being patient? Our patience is exhausted, and I don't have time for another couple years of recommendations. That's my time.
Jenna Broom.
I just want to echo everything that has come before me. Everybody's really had a lot of great things to say, and I hope those have been heard. The makeup of this commission concerns me. The demographics concern me. I think it's been said before, but if there's not a member of the Massey family on this commission, then what the hell are we doing? It needs to have the demographic of people that have been impacted by the police can set it. Like, we need people that have been arrested. We need people that have been to Sangamon County Jail. We need people that have had these experiences with the police and that can speak truth to power, that can say, this is what happened to me, right? We need black women on this commission. We need black people in general on this commission. I applied for this commission, but Lord Almighty, I really hope that there's somebody better than me to put on it, let's just say. I also have a master's degree, and all of those lists of things is like asking us to solve world hunger and, end the war in Sudan while we're at it, guys. We have got to be realistic about what we are doing, and that absolutely starts with the makeup of this. And I just want to, again, reiterate the importance of independence, and specifically that Chairman Van Meter should have no place in any part of the selection or approval of any member of this commission. Period. End of sentence. Independence is what will get the results in this commission. Concerns that I have. So one of the biggest concerns that I have, and this was kind of brought up with the loss of the other commission that was going to happen, there is no subpoena power on this commission. So that basically means we can ask for something and they can say no. And that's it. That's not okay. So I want to ensure that when this commission asks for something and needs documentation or video or whatever, that they get that. That needs to happen. Again, we go back to accountability, independence. What is the end result of this, right? What are we looking at? And not these broad ideas, but things we can actually put into place. And are we ensuring that the board will take these recommendations and do them? Right? We can come up with a plan and put it on a nice big poster board and sign it and make logos and everything else. And at the end of the day, it means nothing if it does nothing. There should be, again, this should be completely independent of the county other than when they get updated, when we do public updates. Yes, and be reform-minded. And then outcomes I'm looking for. The agreement, like I said, to implement these results and suggestions, this should be rolling if possible. We don't need to wait for the end. If we figure out something that is fixable, if we figure out something we can do, we should implement that as quickly as possible. Again, empowerment that all documents and records are requested and received with the understanding, obviously, that certain things may not be viewable by the public. Again, that's why this commission exists. If there are more time and resources needed, that is made available by the board, okay? We've already spent some money. It's likely that more will need to be spent. There's a lot of information that needs to be gathered. Regular public updates, I think we've already kind of discussed that that'll be streamed, so I'm quite appreciative of that. And this was mentioned as well. This should not end. This should be ongoing. This should be continuous. The Massey Commission should live on and continue to make sure that we hold the Sangamon County Sheriff's Department accountable for the things that we find. So I was in Ohio this past weekend for a convention of young leaders. I won't name the organization, it's not relevant right now. But I had a lot of people come up to me and say, "Oh, I love your nail color. It's purple." And I said, "Thank you, it's for Sonia Massey." And it sounds silly, and it's just a little thing. And I paint my nails so I don't bite them. But ever since Sonia was murdered, I've kept my nails purple to remind me of the work that needs to be done. And so when people ask me, I tell them. And people know. People know who Sonia Massey is. It's not just here, it's everywhere. And we owe it to her that her name doesn't end with murder, that we don't associate. We associate a legacy of change and of real actual change, not all these conceptual whatevers. The optimist in me believes that we can do this, right? I am trying so hard. Thank you, Zach Adams, for being an optimist. I am trying so hard. The spotlight is on us. We do not shy away from this. We stay in. We keep the issue in the spotlight. We can make a change. We don't sweep this under the rug. We accept it. We say, yes, Sangamon County has a problem, but we are going to fix it, and we want you to watch and hold us accountable and follow our example. Thank you very much for your time.
Veronica Espina.
Hello, I am president of the Springfield Immigrant Advocacy Network and a board member of the Springfield Coalition on Dismantling Racism. Today I want to talk about anti-racism. Establishing a commission like the Sonia Massey one requires all of us to understand the world through an anti-racism lens. Anti-racism work requires us to learn, unlearn, and organize to build power at the margins, to recognize that structures, policies, and hierarchies in many institutions accumulate power, resources, and concentrate wealth. They create and maintain income inequality, segregation, lack of access to education, food, healthcare, and housing. Systemic injustice, bias, and racism encourage bigotry and victim blaming. They also allow for the dehumanization of entire communities and foment violence. In 2016, along with a group of concerned citizens, I founded the Springfield Immigrant Advocacy Network, Zion. The harmful narratives that flooded the 2016 elections, the candidate speeches, the media coverage, were all designed to dehumanize immigrants. And as bias and prejudice informed policies, we painfully saw that the very first thing that happened in our country after that election was the Muslim ban. Do you think that our Muslim neighbors would have called law enforcement after that happened, if they needed help? You see, anti-immigrant sentiments are at their core racism. In the US, 21st century xenophobia is intrinsically related to the fact that almost 80% of our immigrants are people of color coming from the global south. They're Black, they're African, they're Asian, they're Latino, etc. The murder of Sonia Massey pulled back the very thin veil that has obscured historically troubled relations between city and county law enforcement and Black communities, and brown communities as well. This also includes abuses towards impoverished people, people of color, people experiencing mental health crisis, indigenous peoples, immigrants and refugees, and those who live unhoused or are otherwise vulnerable and powerless. So when the police and paramedics or others who are supposed to help us in times of crisis kill community members in their home, the consequences are not only devastating for the families and the loved ones. Such abuse of power deeply affects everyone else who has experienced a crisis or lived at the margins before. Entire communities might continue to live in fear, isolation, and prolonged stress. All of us are left with a sense of alienation and mistrust. So building just relations with people and communities is law enforcement's duty. It's essential best practice. When excessive force incidents and police killings happen, communities of color will avoid calling the police, even in situations of domestic violence, physical assault, harassment. Further, police will not find witnesses and others willing to cooperate with investigation if communities feel that they might stay in the shadows because they cannot trust police methods or their treatments of them. This is true, and unfortunately, the unspoken reality of people who live in the shadows, such as undocumented immigrants, people seeking asylum, and others. So the instances of racial profiling they experience and the general political context that encourages xenophobia, particularly in election years, push our communities to not even call for help when it's most needed. Why would they call for help when irresponsible comments such as immigrants eat cats and dogs, as recently said of Haitian immigrants, plague the news and social media? Transforming institutions is a work that requires anti-racism training. It requires trauma-informed practices, reduction of harm strategies, trust building, creation of critical mass. This is intersectional and inclusive work by design. So we must understand that communities and peoples have much different lived experiences and identity. So we need to also make sure that the people most affected, like our Black neighbors, brown, immigrants, Muslim siblings, Latinos, Native Americans, are sitting at the table. We hope to be part of an inclusive table that centers on building more just and equitable community relations and transformation of policy, of police roles in our city. And I'm gonna leave us with a quote of Bell Hooks. Rarely, if ever, are any of us healed in isolation. Healing is an act of communion. Thank you.
Jack Pacciola. Did I get it right? Oh, gosh.
I hope this committee is a committee with some teeth, instead of just a committee set up to appease a hurting community after one of your cops senselessly murdered Sonia Massey. And speaking of Sonia Massey, I was in Ireland lately, or last month, and they knew. I spoke to multiple people in Ireland, and this is international. But yeah, if this committee doesn't have teeth, we're all wasting our time. I used to be hopeful about this commission idea, but as of today, I'm more concerned rather than hopeful. I believe everyone on this upcoming commission should be able to feel safe, including women. I do not believe someone with multiple allegations of inappropriately touching certain body parts of local female activists should be co-chair or allowed to be on this commission. There's a high likelihood there will be female activists on this committee. For the ability for these potential women to not have to worry, I ask that Mr. McJunkins please remove himself from future involvement in this commission.
Beth Langen.
Bringing it down and me not having to hide behind the thing would be great. All right. Okay. Thank you. My name is Beth Langen. I'm very proud to be co-chair of the Springfield Immigrant Advocacy Commission. I'm also on the City Disabilities Commission, but I am not here wearing either of those hats tonight. The first thing I wanted to say is that the job of the commission is going to be a lot more difficult than changing policy. We have to change culture, and you can't change culture with policy. It's way more complicated than that. So the commission has a huge challenge, and it can't be done in a year. I'm troubled by the context in which you're going in to try to change policies. One of the earlier speakers mentioned that the former sheriff had simply refused to implement legislation when it came to gun registry. He also didn't just oppose safety legislation, he actively engaged in disinformation on it. And the reason I mention that, he's gone, but everybody who worked for him is still there. And that's the context in which they've been presented with law and policy. If you don't like it, you don't have to follow it. We all recognize in this country that ours is a culture of violence. Violence has been used by law enforcement to control black bodies for 4 centuries. 4 centuries of devaluing black bodies. Changing culture is so much more difficult, and it will take much longer than a year, but it has to be what we do. We can't solve any problem if we don't define it correctly. So I would encourage us to all begin with the assumption that not all solutions are going to be found in the institution, the sheriff's office, where the problem manifested itself in such a brutal way. I hope you'll look far beyond the walls of the sheriff's office for solutions. You know, one of the things I was disheartened by when I saw the requirements for appointing a new interim sheriff, it was about political affiliation and living in the county for a residency. There are real limitations put on an organization that is inherently political. I hope as you examine hiring practices, it will include a discussion of just how to limit patriotism, patronage, nepotism, and how to address the structural barriers that are going to be faced as long as the organization is a political one. I would encourage us all to look at work that's been done and look at the establishment of a permanent Citizens Commission that has real oversight authority for this sheriff's office, especially if it's going to remain a political office. You know, I mentioned safety and mental health provisions that are in the legislation. It is so important. I don't have to tell anybody how deadly the intersection of race and disability is, from initial encounter to incarceration. Please look at where they're at with implementation of safety, of the Americans with Disabilities Act. I can tell you there's some work to do. The Civil Rights Act, Rehab Act of Section 504 of the Rehab Act. Communications. I recently watched an interview by Dr. Tracy Mears. Dawn mentioned her, and we did not coordinate our presentation. She's the founding director of the Justice Collaboratory at Yale Law School, and previously was with the University of Chicago, their Center for Studies in Criminal Justice. It reminded me of how much we've lost as a community as a result of our racism. The fact that she's not as well known for that, but instead is known as the person who was denied valedictorian that she deserved. What she was discussing was recent research that showed that the first 45 words spoken by an officer generally predict the outcome of that encounter. Communication is that crucial. It's not just a power of law enforcement, but a responsibility of law enforcement, and I hope the commission will look at how important that communication is, not only for law enforcement, but for you as a commission. Forming the Massey Commission, I believe, was meant as a first step in rebuilding trust, in establishing trust. And I need to tell you that obligating 80% of the commission's budget before it was even chosen and announced has been cause for confusion and concern. Can you see how those kind of things shake an already fragile trust, and folks are making such a leap of faith? I think this is dropping on me.
Ms. Langen?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for a final sentence. I just want to say that you as chairs have taken on a big commitment. You're staking your reputation on it. I hope that the commission members you chose bring the lived experience, the expertise in anti-racism, knowing the research, and then having the knowledge about law enforcement. And I hope every decision you make honors Sonia Massey.
Mr. J. Johnson?
First, I want to say to the Massey family that's in the building, y'all know how I feel. My second is Bill Houlihan and Andy Van Meter in the room. If so, raise your hand. So they ain't even here. So since some of my questions have already been answered, I had some notes written, and so I'm gonna jump around a little bit and get my point across. Even though Andy Van Meter needs to be here, He needs to hear this, and he's not. So I don't know who picked the chairs, and I don't know who made the decisions, but if Senator Doris can't be on it as a politician, then we shouldn't have no pastors on here. We should have people from the east side, from Ward 2 or Ward 3 on here. We should have some people from the hood on here. We also should have some people from the Massey family on this commission. And if that's not so, we wasting our time. Like someone said before, if you haven't been arrested or dealt with the county or the police, Springfield police, you probably shouldn't be on this commission. Now, my question would have been to Van Meter, who picked them final 8? And what happened to the local guys that was on? And I'm talking about the final 8 officers, whatever they are, that's running for sheriff. Y'all should do y'all background on some of them ones who were running, and that his final 8, we going backwards. Do your history, do your research. I had several people come to me about some of those people that's on that final list. And if he and already made up his mind, then once again, we're wasting our time again. We don't want meetings in a church or any other church, period. Some of us might want to cuss, and I'm trying not to cuss, but you're going to make me say damn about being in this church. We also, let me stay on my point in my notes. We're doing a disservice for the people who might not like coming into churches. A disservice to those people. So no more meetings in churches, because this room really should be packed out. But some people could be discouraged because we're in a church. I'm not coming back to no more church meetings. If I want to come into church, I'm going to go on Sunday service. That's it. None of these meetings, because I will cuss when I get mad. Now, since Van Meter ain't here, you make all the decisions, and this is just a smoke screen. You pick the 8 who will play your ball. You can control. The county building has had problems for years. They treat blacks and males like shit. And we will, when you walk into that county building, that's how you gonna get treated. Your juvenile detention center let a gun in, and a black male was killed by an SPD officer. Grayson, there's many more of him on that department. And that's the truth, and that's how I feel. That's my personal belief. And until we get all of the Graysons off of these departments, Springfield's gonna make history again. You got, how about this one? How about the males who were beaten in that county jail, and one of them to the point of Emmett Till. So for y'all who don't know about Emmett Till, read that book, read some history. That's happening in Sangamon County in our jail. Now, y'all didn't hear about it because they want to cover that up too. So if this commission can't look into things like that and make a decision on hiring process, then this commission is going to be a waste of time. My personal belief is state attorney is in here somewhere. We need somebody like him on that commission if it's going to be on it. And I think I saw a former police chief. I would like to see a former police chief on this commission. Now, the question is, who's on this commission? And I'll wait for my last 7, 8 seconds. Somebody please tell me. Okay, I'm done.
Brianna Roberts.
Good evening. My name is Brianna Roberts, and I'm from Ward 2. I'm here to address concerns about the process of appointing individuals to oversee the Sonia Massey committee or commission, as well as reports of alleged misconduct involving some appointees. This commission was established in response to glaring lack of accountability from those in power, people who should have spoken up for the community's well-being since the beginning. Initially, I was hopeful that this commission would lead to genuine public oversight and independent review of hiring practices. However, after time has passed, we still don't know who has officially been appointed, yet we are seeing consulting firms being brought and discussed before we even know who's wanting to appoint or who is capable of appointing them. Co-chairs have reviewed over 200 applications and will select 12 members, but who exactly are making these decisions? The public deserves transparency about who are in these co-chairs and what their backgrounds are. We already see how the failure of Sangamon County Sheriff Deputy's Department as well as Logan County Sheriff's Deputy Department to disclose Sean Grayson's prior complaints has led to the situation that we are dealing with now. I must now bring to light prior allegations against Pastor McJunkins. One of the individuals involved has multiple prior alleged sexual misconduct allegations against him. Some of these women have come forward and even left their organizations due to this misconduct. I personally knew one of these women, and she cared about that coalition like no other, and for her to leave really speaks volume of the situation that she experienced. Are these the kind of people that we want to represent and place people on this commission? Are we once again ignoring somebody's past and only risking another preventable tragedy? Someone with a history of alleged assault complaints should not be in a position of power, especially one tasked with public accountability. Are we going to ignore these and turn a blind eye again and wait until something else happens so we have to do this again? I don't think we should have to. I think we should address it right now. Are our comments actually going to be taken into consideration if there's already actions being made? Are you guys going to backtrack on the things that you have already established after hearing our concerns? Furthermore, as we build this commission, what are the expectations of diversity? How can we trust that the 12 members elected are going to share equal representation? How do we know that the co-chairs won't allow their personal beliefs, agendas, or assumptions of who they are overviewing to influence their choice on if somebody deserves a seat in the commission or not? Have they undergone any anti-bias trainings? And if so, where have they gained their certification? How carefully has these 200 applications actually been reviewed? While I may not get specific answers to these questions right now, I urge the co-chairs to deeply reflect on whether their actions align with the community's best interest. My hope is for fair representation of Black people, of Black women, of the Massey family, those who have lived experiences with police brutality, being arrested, going to jail. Are they going to be on the commission? Are their voices of diverse walks of life going to be heard? I want to be hopeful about this commission, I truly do. And I believe with the right people, leadership, and resources, it can be a transformative step in Springfield's future. But until we have open conversations about the people we have already appointed, have actually checked into their backgrounds and taken into consideration who do we have already representing this commission before we have it fully developed. We're not going to actually go anywhere if we don't fix the issues that got us here in the first place. I want to address that I'm deeply concerned about the future of Springfield. This is my home. I'm sure this is most of your home, probably born and raised here. It can't keep like this, and it's going to if we don't actually address the problems of lack of transparency. And finally, I cannot fully trust this process. I am deeply concerned for the safety of our women, of our community, and how this represents our home. And I urge every single co-chair to take this more seriously than you have taken everything, because all of Springfield's lives are in your hands. Thank you.
Meredith Cargill. Oh,
I am Meredith Cargill. When I watch the body cam video footage that's been released to the public, I notice one detail, and that is that the law officer did not become agitated and defensive until the instant when Sonia Massey said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." That was for him a trigger. It triggered him. She did not say it to him aggressively. She was very calm. So he was responding to the meaning of what she said. I find it quite curious that this detail has never been mentioned in any of our public discourse about this, so I am mentioning it. Because it seems to imply that the primary factor in her death may have been her religion, and every other factor may have been secondary. This is a hard fact about this particular case. Now, I know the mission of the commission is much broader than just trying to understand what happened in this one case. And in fact, when we want justice, justice for Sonia Massey, and also justice for a citizen who has been accused of a crime, we in America believe that the way to achieve justice is through due process of law. And that means it belongs to the courts, not to mass gatherings of people, not to lynch mobs, not even to citizens' grassroots organizations, but the question of justice belongs to our court system. So we need, as part of what we do here, to check on how the court system is going to work in this case, to see that justice is indeed served, and that the citizen who is accused of a crime is not denied due process in the same way that Sonia Massey was denied due process. So, this commission is not holding as its mission the investigation of just this one case, but to the extent that we are wanting to understand what happened in this one case, the commission does need to have at least one member who is a minister in a church where that exact sentence, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus," is heard regularly as part of the normal discourse in that church. So not just any minister will do. You have to have someone who understands what she might have meant by that and what is reasonable to expect anyone to think when that is said to them.
Ann Logue.
We have deeply ingrained systematic distrust and hurt here in Springfield. We need professionals who are dedicated to the work on police justice issues that have experienced racism here. The first thing the county board did was hire Kind Consulting. She is white, she's fairly young, and her experience, one of her things she says is to help organizations with government relations, community engagement, and professional communication. You know, what? This is the first thing that they do? This is very frightening. And I was really angry when I called her, and she has no minorities that work with her. She is the only person on this, in this company. She's very nice, and I asked her, I said, would you be willing to work with Tracy Meares? Tracy Meares is a woman of color, nationally recognized expert on policing in urban communities. She is a professor at Yale University. And we've already just talked about how she was the young woman who was discriminated against and denied valedictorian because of her color at Springfield High School. Since then, she has worked hard on solutions. President Obama named her as a member of his task force on 21st century policing. She takes this very seriously, she's smart, and she's not afraid to speak up for herself. So I am, joining with the rest of the people that we really need somebody who knows what they're doing, because obviously we have a lot of people in power who don't. That's it.
Margarita Fultz.
Good evening. I'm comfortable in the church. I'm a preacher's kid. My name is Margarita Maria Fultz. I am soon to be a Massey. I'm not yet. I'm engaged to Sante Lamont Massey. I'm here because Sonia meant a lot to me. Sonia, not Sonia. Not the young lady who asked for help and was murdered in her own kitchen, but my cousin-in-law. There's a Springfield in 34 of our 50 states. So the fact that Sonia Lene Massey was murdered by a former Sangamon County Sheriff's deputy on her own kitchen floor says a lot. This could have happened in any Springfield. This could have happened to anybody. This could have happened to any woman of color who called out for help. Not only did Sonia call out for help that calm summer night, but she also sought mental health solutions to a recent diagnosis, not even a month prior to her early demise for paranoia. She sought help the day prior to her being slain. Why does this keep happening to us, to endangered Black, brown, and indigenous people? From an anthropological perspective, she could have been a Native American. She could have been a Native princess with a slender build, high cheekbones, and almond-shaped eyes, light caramel-colored toned skin, and keen royal features that left a beautiful mother of two down and out forever. A stack of articles has foreshadowed those tragic early morning shots that Sonia tried her best to twice rebuke in the name of Jesus. God called her home to spare her and other women like her the persistent hatred, agony, and pain of this multi-generational police violence that began with our ancestors being brought to this God-forsaken country in shackles and chains, and now follow us like a hawk watches a chicken in our own kitchens, in our own sacred homes. Sonia exclaimed, "I'm sorry," not because she was going to do anything violent against her murderer, but because she was raised in a household around a family who believes, as 2 Chronicle reads in the Holy Bible, "If my people who are called by my name humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and heal their land. That's it. In the instant, the last instant she had, she repented for our whole human race so that God would heal Springfield, Illinois. I'm sorry for Malachi. I'm sorry for Summer. I'm sorry for Aunt Donna. I'm sorry for Sante. I'm sorry for you, Shadia. I'm so sorry. And everyone who loved Sonia and loves God and God's people, I'm sorry for us. Our hearts are broken and our heads are bloody but unbowed as we move forward to get rid of leadership and law enforcement agencies who created this culture of hatred, violence, and inhumanity against our people. This could have been one of 34 states that have a Springfield. This could have been your cousin, or worse, this could have been you. We have to hold all law enforcement agencies to a higher standard that requires thorough background checks, putting a halt to individuals who have a history of improprieties and disciplinary actions against them, for working in any role in which they are armed with a service weapon. And we need to institute more hours of cultural competence, cultural humility, and CIT, crisis intervention team training, so that officers are not so inclined to implicitly be biased against us and ignore or fear Black, brown, and indigenous or poor people.
Bistrit Soundry.
Good evening. My name is Vistrit Chaudhary, and I work at SIU Medicine researching health and equity in rural areas. As many of you can tell, I'm not from here. I was born in India, and I have made the awesome journey across continents to study in the United States on public policy to improve rural health, and this is my way of paying back. I can't speak more eloquently about the problems and the challenges that our previous speakers have talked about, but I can share one anecdote from my own life, which might be helpful in the work that we have in front of the commission. One of the speakers before me talked about how difficult it is to change culture, and I very strongly believe that changing culture only happens when line managers and line supervisors and middle management buys into the values that an organization tries to promote. And that is the only way you can create sustainable change. When I joined KPMG as a young consultant, my hero was not my father, he was not my CEO, he was not my director. It was the line manager who taught me how to do the work. He continues to be a very important figure of influence in my life, and he instilled in me the qualities of honesty, caring for our community, and caring for my client. I wish that this committee's report and the work that it generates not only affects the tone at the top, which is super important in trying to effect change, but also the tone in the middle, because the people who are on the front lines don't meet the police chief every day. They meet their partner, they meet their senior officers who go out on beat and patrol day in and day out. That's the way you change communities, that's the way you change culture, and that's the way you ensure that something like this never happens again. Thank you.
Isaac Jones.
Peace and blessings to everyone. Happy Mother's Day, happy Father's Day to the Massey family, to the Springfield peoples, persons. Y'all may have to take out y'all Google ink pens and write down some of these words by definition. We're gonna deal with the elephant in the room, and we're gonna address it the way it needs to be addressed and without us selling out and without us being lied to. This commission is false. It's fake. No disrespect to the Massey family. It's tribal sovereignty. That's the commission we need. That lay out the whole everything. Tribal sovereignty, tribal immunity, tribal acknowledgement. This is the language and the knowledge that they don't want us to know or want us to understand, nor will they teach us in schools. It's under 25 CFR 83. That's the whole tribal document. Many of us are not just African, and we're not just black. Black, you could sell that. I'm not black. I'm Cameroon, Nigerian, Blackfeet, Indian. I'm not black. I'm not African American. There's no tribe in Africa named black. There's no tribe in Africa named African American. African American, do y'all declare? So what we talking about here in the United States, we being lied to. King had to wake up because he was a black Asian. That's what they called him, until he realized they killed him. We different, we tribal. By right, our nationality law essentials of purpose indigenous persons. By natural common truth, by laws and likeness of our own image and our own male and women and females, daughters and sons and kindreds and semblants, inhabitants, black, Negro, colored folk, African Americans, Nubians, and to maintain authority, natural, organic nationality, and tribal descent. Tribal, cultural essence. Blackfeet Indians, African American, Atlantic Creole, Black Seminoles, Louisiana Creoles, Black Brass Ankles, Chestnut Ridge people, indigenous people of the Americas, Misconduct. These are the names of these counties. All of the counties are named after the tribes. Illinois is named after a tribe. It's called Illini-Wek. Black Creek, citizens. 5 civilized tribes recognition, Muskegee, Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Seminole, as cited in the civilized under the act of the federal order. We are federally protected people, persons, under Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3 of the United States Constitution. We're 3/5 of all other persons. We're not to be taxed. It's right there behind the Indians not to be taxed, and they have 3/5 of all other persons under Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3, right up under the preamble. How can we miss that? We're there in the corporations. What happened in 1787 when they designed these 6 states? They put them under a whole different marking. So we thinking that they being judged under the Supreme Court and these other jurisdictions is false. The county, that's who hold it. The judges, that's who hold it. These politicians, they just propagating the message for them. They selling us out. They doing this without a consent. They violating the Stafford Act. They violating public acts. They violating the Emancipation Proclamation. Why do we got to go back to 1863 to declare our freedom and declare our rights? The Confiscation Act was declared before the Emancipation Proclamation. We're talking about Confiscation Act 1 and 2. That was in the act of, when January 6th happened, that was an act of insurrection. That's what they declared. That was another reason for us to declare us to have our own embassy. One moment, please. I had a whole lot to read, but I know y'all not ready for this. Hold on a minute. A resolution of embassies unto the cities and governments active agreement with innocence and agreement. Legations, embassies, here of civilized management, resourceful cultural educational centers, resourceful defense, protection, self-preservation, determination, business law, organizations, political party. General Assembly add resolution. We contacted Senator Doris Turner, Tammy Duckworth, I think Senator Duckworth, and Dick Durbin. They got on TV talking about dogs and cats when we sent them the letter to liberate us. We have a flag. That's 20 directors up under me. We don't understand what's their issues is. I come to her office. You know what they did? They ran me up out of the governor's office, told me I can't come to the governor's office no more. I haven't been able to go to the governor's office. This is the same man that I helped get in office. for the east side and the southeast side of Springfield, Illinois. I went to the west side and brought his campaign to the east side of Springfield without doors, without no one. And I helped him and tell the truth. Tell the truth, Reverend McJunkins. Y'all know about Genesis City. Tell them about Genesis City. It's up there in the Sangamon County Courts, 2020 MC 00001 and 2020 MC 00002. These were the only two municipal corporations that was designed as Genesis City, Illinois, to design our own defense and our own protections for us to have an embassy. So these things won't happen. We did this 6 years ago. It's a shame. It hurts me that we just now waking up because they caught us sleeping.
Mr. Joe.
Wait a second. We went to Washington, D.C. We went to D.C., and you know they ran us up out of there. The governor ran me up out of there because I tried to declare civil rights. Just go up there and just ask for constituent rights for us. They said, get up out of here. And they ran me up out of there. So I don't know what we got going on here. And there's only 6 states that declare Indians not to have tribes. We know we Indian tribes. We know what they did to us. They just won't write about it. They won't respect us about it. We need federal recognition, federal acknowledgement. That means that puts federal protection. If not, we need to do an exodus or do a migration up out of this town because we immigrants and we refugees anyway that migrated from the South and through from other countries. My dad is 107. How did he get here? He's still alive. My mother's 80. She's Blackfeet Indian. How did they get here? Why am I here? Why are y'all calling me black? Why are y'all calling us black? We're not black. We're tribes. We culture. We people. We're persons. We babies. No matter what age someone is, realize this. They're someone's child. I'm 52 years old. My dad's 107. My mom's 80. I'm still someone's child, so y'all got a right to protect us. We got a right to protect ourselves because y'all don't want to respect us. It's about respect.
Joanne Johnson.
Federal acknowledgement. Otherwise, they playing the game with us. They ain't gonna give us protection. They got commissions all over the United States. What has it done? It hasn't done nothing for us.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Maybe I'll just do this. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but having sat here and listened to all the other speakers, I felt compelled to come up and speak, so if you could just hear me for a few minutes. My name's Joanne Johnson, first of all. I'm a citizen here of Springfield, Illinois, but I am not from Springfield. I'm from Chicago. Born and raised south side of Chicago. I moved here in 2010, and I've been here ever since. I bring to you a different perspective tonight because I'm a citizen of Springfield. I'm a black woman. I'm a mother to 2 black daughters, but I'm also a retired police officer. I was a police officer for nearly 30 years with the Illinois State Police. I spent 22 of those years in Chicago. The remaining of those years I spent right here in Springfield. I have seen a lot. I have dealt with a lot. And when I think of the comments that people have made before me tonight, people that have said, unless you've been in handcuffs, unless you've been arrested, unless you've been face down on the pavement, I've not. But I have been a person that's done that. But I've also been a person that, as a female police officer, when I was in an undercover capacity, which I was for over 12 years, have been put face down in handcuffs by people who didn't know I was the police. I have been a subject of biased policing as a off-duty police officer. In retirement, I have worked with a company that for the last 7 years, I have trained and continue to train law enforcement in bias policing. Implicit bias, both maliciously and not. And what I think, and I saw that as a topic on the focus of the Massey Commission, one of the many topics. And I really hope that that is a topic that really does rise up to one of the top of the topics, because I am not going to stand here and blow smoke up your you-know-what by telling you that when there is over 708,000 police officers in the United States today, that none of those men and women are racist, because they are. But I will also implore you to also understand how powerful bias is and how we all carry it, because it's a human condition. It's not a law enforcement condition or a doctor condition or a lawyer condition or a judicial condition, even though we see it in all of those arenas. It's a human condition. And I have trained the entire Springfield Police Department in implicit bias. But yet we still see what we see in our society, in this city today. And so I've heard a lot of interesting things about what is the focus of the community, or of the commission, who is going to be tasked with the charge of leading this commission. And I don't really have a lot to say about that, but what I can say is that whomever's on the commission, and I applied, because I do think I can bring a unique perspective. This commission will not get far if it is just a group of angry voices. We absolutely have to have direction, focus, come from a place of composure, and bring these important issues to the forefront, whomever does it. And it has to be diverse, not only in race, gender, culture, and background, but also experience and expertise. And so I just needed to step up and say that tonight. And I really do hope that this commission will have the teeth that it needs, because this city needs that. I have sat on I'm civilian now, I'm civilian. But I sit in my living rooms like you and yours and watch these events unfold, and I have 2 young daughters, high school, college age, that could have been Sonia. I could have been Sonia, because when I'm dressed like this, I'm just a black female. So I pray that this commission does everything that it hopes and is tasked to do. Thank you.
We have 3 more people that are signed up to speak. If there's anyone else that would like to be on the list to speak, if you could let the ladies know in the back. We want to make sure that we're ending our time tonight with the Massey family that is asked to speak. So if there's anyone else that needs to be on the list before we close out with these 3, please let us know. Diana Elshriff.
Good afternoon, everyone. Peace and blessings be upon everyone. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but as I sat here and listened, I got to thinking about the time I got arrested, handcuffed, put in a holding cell. They put me in a holding cell with 3 women they were transporting from one federal prison to another federal prison, and they were in there, I asked them why were they being transported. They told me all 3 of them had they had intent to kill. I stayed in jail 24 hours. I don't know why I stayed in jail for 24 hours. The next day, they said, you can go. So I had to walk home from jail, and I had time to ponder that, like, why did I get arrested? But anyway, I feel like everybody else on this Massey's commission. There has to be a Massey's family member, because other than that, this is not going to work. I've known Donna a long time, and my heart goes out to her. And I just felt that I should speak about this. You, Ms. Hine, you were talking about the school district. We have so many kids, African American kids, in the school district with IEPs, and I look around and see how security, I'm in a school with armed police officers, and I see how they talk to these kids, how they treat these kids. These kids are our future. These kids have mental health problems. They have been traumatized. And I applied for the commission because we have to do something to stop this racism on our children. Most of our armed officers are white. Most of our social workers in the school is white. I feel I try my hardest to work with these kids. I'm a family and community liaison, and I just think that there is so much mental health problems that no one wants to address. And I want to say this to parents who have children. It's not taboo if your child is having mental health crisis. Get them help that they need. The school district can't do it all. I have a granddaughter that is on the spectrum. She was born 3 months early. She's 11 now. You can't tell it. We support her. We get her everything she needs. Parents, you have to be there for your child. I'm so proud of Donna because she was there for Sonia, and we need a lot of parents like that. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Marcus Rothenberg.
Just going to do my best here. I also did not plan to speak tonight, but kind of like some other folks, something came over me that compelled me to get up here and say something. My name is Marcus Rothenberg. I was born and raised here in Springfield. I left only when I joined the military, and that was straight out of high school, and then ended up actually moving back here, obviously, as I'm here tonight. I love this city. I really do. But at the same time, I'm also constantly infuriated by this city. And I'm going to take you guys all on a trip through time and kind of my experience here. My first interaction with the police in this area came in the form of a traffic stop. I was very young. I was sitting in the back seat. My father, who was black, was sitting in the front seat, and his friend, who is white, we'll say Bob, was driving. Well, Bob was found to have some weed on him during this traffic stop. The police then pulled my father out of the car, because obviously this black man was the one that did something wrong, and probably gave Bob the drugs. My father was assaulted, and my father was arrested. Now, how did I get home from this traffic stop? The police didn't take me home. Nobody called my mother to come get me. They had Bob drive me home. The man that they stopped initially on the traffic stop, who nothing happened to him, but my father was beaten and incarcerated. Years later, my mother and my father split up. My mother married a man who was incredibly abusive, not just verbally, but physically. I remember being 8 years old, and it was the time I called the police after a particularly bad beating that I received. Nobody came. They told 8-year-old Marcus that it isn't their problem and to call DCFS. I'm single digits. I don't know what DCFS is. And this is before smartphones or Google was big, so there was no way I could find out what that even meant. I endured this abuse for about 9 more years, despite calling and asking for help multiple times. And many of the times I was told that nothing can be done unless a police report is filed. But how can a police report be filed if the police refuse to even come out and file one? Sorry, this is a little rough for me going through this. I then joined the military directly out of high school because my family was poor and I knew we couldn't afford college. The military was a good way for me to get out. It was a good way to get away from the abuse. I have very bad PTSD, as my spouse can ascertain, or corroborate, sorry, and it didn't start over there or somewhere else. It started here. It didn't start in a war zone over there. It started in a war zone here. And it's something I still very much struggle with. Now, I've heard some people say that the police mostly act as an occupying army, which, I'll be honest, I kind of buck against that, because when I was in the military and serving with other members of the Air Force, Marines, Army, Navy, when we were in a war zone, we couldn't shoot at a threat until that threat shot at us. The police here do not offer that same courtesy. Anytime they fear for their lives, the first instinct is to go for a gun, despite having other non-lethal means to handle these threats. So why is it that me as a teenager dropped into a foreign country where I don't speak the language, I don't know anything about the geopolitical situation going on, anything like that. My brain isn't even fully developed yet because I'm 17, 18, 19. Why am I held to a higher standard than the adult professional law enforcement here? I have another story, but I know that my time is almost up. I'm gonna just skip over it. Let's just say I got mugged, called the police for help. The police showed up, put me in handcuffs, and one of the officers broke my nose. A police report was never filed, and the only thing that saved me was that the gas station I was mugged outside of had a security camera, and the gas station owner came to my help, not the police. I say something often, and it's unfortunate that I have to say it. If I need help, I won't call the cops. I'll call someone that will help. I would love to say that it's just a broken system, but unfortunately I fear the system is working exactly as it's intended. But Marcus, it's just a few bad apples, a lot of people say to me. Okay, can you tell me what the rest of that saying is? It's not just a few bad apples are fine for the bunch and we'll just go about our day. A few bad apples ruin the bunch. I would love to be able to rely on the police, but in their current capacity, that just isn't realistic. And I genuinely hope something happens to change that. I hope that this commission can work towards changing who we as a community can call for help, that the person we call when we need help does not default to punishment as a police officer does, but comes for the help of someone that is equipped to help, such as a social worker, a mental health professional, or a community advocate. That if we need help, it arrives, instead of just another threat showing up to make things worse. Thank you.
Tiara Standage.
Hello, I'm Tiara Standage. I'm the CEO of Intricate Minds. Thank you. For work, I'm a harm reductionist. For those that don't know what that means, it's simply reducing the harm that is placed on our community. I will say I was born a black woman, I'm still a black woman, and I'll die a black woman. Today, I quit my job. I did that so that I could focus full time on this fight. As a black woman, I've been fighting this fight all of my life. I just want to piggyback off of something that Miss Diana said. Not only are these officers armed and in our schools with our children, they're also strangling female protesters and pulling them by their hair when they're not in our schools with our children. And that same officer that did that, he was here last time to speak up for Sonia Massey, but he's not here today. I said that already, sorry. I'm not a good public speaker. Racism and cultural ignorance within all policing departments. A complete disregard of black rights, black people, and black lives. Who better to speak out against the injustices than the people that disproportionately experience them? Representation matters. There are black women, black men, black children, and black police that are all suffering at the hands of the police. I myself have experienced this blatant racism from our local policing departments since I was a 13-year-old homeless youth all the way up to last Monday. The Masseys have experienced this blatant disregard of human life and compassion by the police, by sworn deputies who were hired to protect and serve our community. This is why we are all here today. This is supposed to be the purpose of the Massey Commission. I urge the co-chairs to consider this carefully when choosing the members of this commission. Once again, representation matters.
Jacqueline Jarju. Jarju.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline Jarju. I came here to listen. This is a listening session. What struck me most about everything that has happened since that fateful day is community. This family is an example of community. They came together as a family to support each other. They are strong. In spite of their grief, they have come together to bring justice. They put aside their grief to bring justice. They cry. They still in pain. It's hard. They have to go to work every day. I don't know this Sante. I don't know this brother, but I do know Marguerite, and I called her one day, and he was in pain. He had to get up and go to work. And he's here today. Imagine losing somebody and getting up and going to work. And every day you see your family member, somebody talking about your family member, and you don't even know this person. You don't know these people, and they're out there protesting, and they're talking, and they're saying justice for your family member. But you gotta go to work. Your kids gotta go to school. And these things are happening, and you crying every day, and mama is over there. I'm a journalist. I'm other things too. And what struck me most about this story was community. I came up here today because I had questions, and I was told this was a listening thing, so I'm not going to phrase it as a question. But what I'm going to say here, if the family doesn't agree with the actions of the commission, I'm wondering if they can redact the name. They could say, listen, I don't want my name on this. I'm wondering if that could happen, because if I don't like something, I could say, take my name off of that. So I'm wondering if that can happen. The other thing that came to mind for me, if I don't like what you're doing, can I make my own thing? So I'm wondering, in your mind, you ain't gotta do what this commission say do. You got this. Community got this. So just think about that. The other thing I wanted to say, look, I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I went to a healing circle and I spoke up. It was, oh my God, I did not know Springfield had some powerful Black and brown mental health professionals. Y'all got it here. You got it here. So you don't need to call the sheriff. You don't need to do that now. And it's beautiful, and I think it's because of this family. Y'all got people. So what I wanted to say, we don't need to call
The police. And why do they need to assess whether or not somebody is a danger to themselves and others? Why do they get to assess my mental health? And in Milwaukee, and I believe in a lot of places, those 34 Springfield places, but in all of our 50 states, we are calling the sheriff to assess whether somebody is a danger to themselves or others. And a lot of people are scared of the police. They scared of journalists too, but they are scared of the police, and we scared. So we don't seek mental health. We don't seek, and we need to. We need to be whole. So I'm saying we need to take that part out of the hands of the police. And we need to put them in the hands of our own black, brown, LGBTQ+, and everybody else. We need to put it back into their hands. So that's all I wanted to say. And we need community health workers. We need, go check on your people. We need community people back out here, and anything else that's community oriented. And I want to thank the Massey family for, in their grief, God bless y'all, for standing up for community. And I just hope everything comes out, and I'm here for you. I'm gonna write, I'm gonna use the power of my pen, and thank you.
Vanessa Jefferson.
Hello. I wasn't gonna get up to say nothing today, but you know, I heard a couple people say if you ain't been done wrong by the police, well, at the age of 11 in the John Hayes homes, I experienced, we went to help my auntie, and we called the police for help. The police took me and my cousin that was teenagers to jail. I went to juvenile, but I was put in handcuffs and didn't understand at the time why I was going to jail, and never had experienced this, you know, for myself. But also, the day of young lady's funeral, I didn't realize that her daughter was my cousin. But also, I grew up with Donna, seen her daughter grow up. She was a smart young lady. I had a chance to talk to her many a times. But I had an uncle that was in the Sangamon County Sheriff. He always used to tell us, he says, you can get arrested today, and everybody see you getting arrested, but once you go down there, that paperwork could be tore up, and they could take you to a county, nobody never know you're there. And so I done seen the bad and the good and the black and the white. I have seen, growing up in the projects, we've seen a lot of things. I have seen a black policeman kick a young man off the porch, had got shot. He might have could have lived, but he was kicked off the porch, and we was all told we better go home or we were gonna be arrested. But so I don't really trust the police, and so I wouldn't call them. But just today, talking about racism, I went to CVS to get my aunt's medicine. And so when I walked up to the thing, the guy says, I'm off duty. I'm not gonna help you. They can help you. I'm not working no more. I said, okay, sir. So I sat down in the chair to wait for the lady to help me. It's a white lady walked up, he helped her. And like, dang, you know, he took the time to help her. So it's racism everywhere. So we need to stop all this. But like I said, I done seen the bad and the good and the black and the white. And I don't trust none of them. Some of my own family is police officers. And I done seen them do stupid stuff. But if we call and say something about it, it ain't gonna get nothing done. It didn't nothing get done about it. But we just need to stop it. And Sonia, you helped me. Donna, you've been strong. Hold your head up. The day your daughter was buried. That was the hardest day of my life. And reason I'm saying this, July the 19th, my grandson got murdered, and it was covered up. And by the NAACP, a family member of mine told me my grandson wasn't important when the ambulance killed my kid's cousin, that my grandson wasn't important. I just wanted to get some help, get some justice for him. But it wasn't about my grandson that day. She was right. It wasn't about my grandson. But my grandson made national news too. But nobody stood up to try to help me to get justice for him. It was all covered up, but they didn't think that we were going to get a second autopsy. But we did, and we found out when we asked Ruby to, so we could see my grandson when he came home. And it was a young man over there. We didn't know it was my grandson. I said, girl, they just sent you the wrong body. And that ain't my grandson. My grandson, when I identified him, he looked like himself. When he came home, he had been, he was light-skinned. When he came home, he was black as this thing here. I said no, and so I had to take the cover off of my grandson to identify who he really was, because that wasn't the person that I last seen him. And so I hope everything, you get justice, and just like somebody else said, they got rid of the sheriff, but the crooks are still in there. We got what is it? Ku Klux Klan in the ambulance drivers. We got Ku Klux Klans in the police department, in the hospital. They just got titles now, but they still there.
Our last speaker, Tamika.
I'm gonna make this real short and sweet. When y'all talking about, sorry for your loss, Miss Massey, because I know you, and you always shook hand me. You was always there when I was Reggie. You was always there when I was Tamika. I'm proud of you, what you doing. Say the word for the gay community.
Oh, yeah.
Say the word for the gay community.
Say the word.
Yeah.
You want me to speak for him?
No, say the word.
The bad word?
No, the L.
LGBTQIA+.
Okay. Now, I'm one of them. And my thing is, I'm only gonna say this and keep it real short. Can one of the gay community be on that board? The reason why I'm saying let a gay community be on the board, we also got a voice. Because we walk around here every day like women's, you know what I'm saying? And the lesbians walk around here like men's. They deserve a voice. You know what I'm saying? Why everything we out here fighting for the women's, why won't we be able to out here to fight for the gay community? Because you got to remember one thing. You got kids now, it's gay. You got kids, it's kindergarten, growing up, it's gay. And they want a voice too. Why should they hurt? Why should they cry? Why should they suffer? Because I know one, and I'm gonna speak about this officer, because he worked for security guard, SIU, Family Medicine. He was a police officer. He threatened me, came to my house when I was over there on 7th Street. He said, next time you get arrested, I want to be this officer. Because when I come, I'm coming to kill you. Now, I had to go through this. Now, every time I go to SIU around 3:30 and see him, I get so angry, I black out. And I want to kill him before he killed me. When he see me on my bike, he follows me. When I go in the store, he follows me. It's not a white thing, it's also a black thing. Because you got a lot of black officers, it's more racist toward blacks than whites. Because I've seen it happen. I've seen white ends get treated better by a black officer. And I see black officers hit white women, throw them on the ground like they nothing. Let's target not just whites. Let's talk about blacks as well in our community. Everybody should have accountability, not just one.
Our last speaker of the night is Shadia Massey.
Hello, my name is Shadia Massey, and I am the niece of Donna, Sonia's mother. So I just came up because I felt like a Massey should have spoke or said something. So my hope is being that we get justice for Sonia, of course. Also, hoping for police reform so that the people of the community can feel safe and comfortable depending on them to do their jobs. That is my hope. I have a concern, and my concern is that nothing will change. The police seems to be more vigilant now than ever. It seems like instead of doing what's right, they rather cover up each as if it's us against them. So, yes, I'm not for sure who's on the commission. There is Masseys that also apply, so we do plan on someone in our Massey family to be there. Also, we want to thank everybody for the love, the support, our community, our nation, everybody. Sorry I'm not a good speaker either. I just wanted to say something. Love y'all.
Just a moment, please. Just a moment, please.
I just want to say thank you to everybody, all the support, all the family, all the friends. If it wasn't for you guys, I would be crazy. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, God. Amen.
Amen.
They need to have the final word. We're happy to meet with you just after. Please hold your question for after. Thank you.
Okay, happy to. Thanks so much for everybody speaking from their heart tonight. Thanks so much for the last words we heard. In just a moment, I have a little bit more to say about that. I don't want to spend too much time wrapping this up because we all heard it, but your desires, your personal experiences, your hurting, we've heard it, and we understand all of that. And the word that came through loudest and clearest was police reform. A lot of things about that. Cultural change seems to be at the heart of everything, and that's a difficult one, but it does take time. I will say that I think we all envision that something permanent will come out of this, even if this very commission itself is time limited. Something permanent on the part of the citizens speaking and citizens being involved in this process needs to be done. Now, for the cultural change, we heard a lot about training in anti-racism and understanding implicit bias and cultural competence and crisis intervention training, all of those things. Those things work in organizations. I can speak by having been through it to some degree, but I can also speak to how slow it is sometimes and seemingly slow, but you have to stick with it. So, you know, we do want to, on this commission, have the teeth that's needed to get that ball rolling. Many times tonight, I heard about favoritism, nepotism, inbreeding, indoctrination. Those are important things to address, for sure. I heard a lot about the power of policies and the written word and getting it right. That came up over and over again. We'll take that to heart. I heard a lot about engaging Tracy Mears. We'll do that, gladly, as a matter of fact, no doubt. I heard more than I thought I would about the use of force and gun violence, and that hasn't been a major part of our preliminary discussions, but we've touched on it, and it was on that list, but very important. And I just did want to say that Nina Harris was not told that she need not be on the commission. Nina was probably the vital part of getting us to where we were right now. So a lot about mistrust. We get that. We started with that. A lot about respect. But now I am sorry that I pronounced Sonia's name wrong. I know better, actually, and I didn't know her, but I know a friend of hers, and so I'm going to selectively read from a text that I think, a text message, not a text, that doesn't have a number and a verse, chapter and verse. So, okay, it's a little long, so bear with me here. Sonia always saw things other people couldn't. She was so religious, I swear, she was gifted in a way a lot of people aren't and can't comprehend. She felt evil in her house that night. She was really failed by the community, the cops, the laws, even the 911 operator who told her to get off the phone with them and talk to the cops in her home. That is so sad to me. They didn't value her feelings or insinuate she was in the middle of a breakdown or trouble. How cruel. She was killed by a police officer, but someone gave him the gun. So many more people need to be held accountable. I'm so angry, Jerry. You know, I've marched in the marches, shown up to the protest years, every time this has happened, and now, boom. It's someone not only in our town, but a friend of mine who prayed over me every time we spoke. What she should be remembered for and what she will be remembered for are two different things, and it upsets me on a level I've never felt before. My heart isn't broken, it's shattered. My daughter could be next. It's scary to think about. I think watching your friend's final moments with the world is a truly surreal experience. In general, seeing it isn't easy. To see her beg for help and to know she was so scared, she immediately asked not to be hurt. To be shot is just a blank part of this narrative that should have never been. This town is better than that. This community is better than that. So much needs to say. So much needs to change, Jerry. Yes, it does. Thanks.
Everyone who gathered with us tonight, you have the opportunity to leave comments in the comment box or even on the wall as you leave. Thank you for sharing your stories with us, your pain with us, and we're hoping that together we're going to start to hear some stories that can heal and transform. So thank you and have a good night.